For decades, The Honeymooners has been hailed as one of the greatest sitcoms ever made, 39 perfect episodes of comedy gold. But what most fans don't know is that the show almost didn't exist at all. Behind the laughter lay a production filled with chaos, heartbreaking struggles, and a dark political conspiracy that erased one of its stars from history. And when the show finally ended, the reason was so shocking that it remained hidden for several years. Now we finally understand the disturbing truth about why The Honeymooners had to end the way it did. The making of The Honeymooners. Jackie Gleason was a struggling comedian from the rough-and-tumble streets of Brooklyn. He grew up in poverty, the son of an Irish immigrant father who abandoned the family, and a mother who worked tirelessly to put food on the table. Those formative years of hardship and struggle would become the emotional foundation of his greatest creation. Gleason had seen the desperate, get-rich-quick schemes, the failing dreams, and the wives who kept everything together. He knew these people intimately because he had grown up among them. In 1951, while hosting Cavalcade of Stars on the Dumont television network, he conceived an idea that would change television forever. He wanted to create a comedy that reflected the gritty, working-class realities of his youth, steering away from the era's idealized, wealthy TV households. The character of Ralph Cramden was born from Gleason's own experiences. He named the character after a real acquaintance from his early days in the Brooklyn tenements, a man whose ambitions always exceeded his grasp and whose temper was as famous as his failures. The show flipped traditional comedic roles in a way that was revolutionary for its time. The husband was loud, aggressive, and constantly failing, while the wife was the rational, level-headed anchor. This dynamic created a comedic tension that audiences had never seen before. Ralph would rant and rage, but Alice would cut him down with a single, withering remark. It was a formula that worked brilliantly, and it was rooted in Gleason's own observations of the marriages he had witnessed growing up. The casting process was a series of happy accidents and determined gambles. Art Carney was hired after Gleason saw him perform a dynamic physical comedy role on a live radio-to-television transition sketch. The comedian's ability to contort his face and body in ways that defied description caught Gleason's attention immediately, and he was cast as the iconic sewer worker Ed Norton. Joyce Randolph was selected to play Trixie Norton after appearing in a single Clorox chewing gum commercial that caught Gleason's eye during a live broadcast break. She had the right look and the right timing, and she slipped into the role effortlessly. The most dramatic casting story belonged to Audrey Meadows. When Meadows first auditioned for the role of Alice Cramden, Gleason rejected her outright. He stated she was far too young and glamorous to convincingly play a weary, working-class housewife, but Meadows was determined to prove him wrong. In a bold move, she hired a photographer to come to her apartment at dawn before she had applied any makeup and take pictures of her looking bedraggled and exhausted. She wore a tattered house dress and pulled her hair back in a severe bun. When Gleason saw the photos, he failed to recognize her and declared, "That's Alice." Later, when he discovered the woman in the photos was the same actress he had rejected, he was so impressed by her determination that he gave her the part. The show's production was as unconventional as its creation. In 1955, CBS executives signed a massive $11 million contract with the Buick division of General Motors to finance The Honeymooners as a standalone sitcom, one of the largest corporate sponsorship agreements in early television history. The money allowed Gleason to maintain the high production values he insisted upon. He refused to record the show via low-quality kinescopes, demanding instead the use of the rare Dumont Electronicam system, which combined a live television camera feed with a physical motion picture film camera sharing a single lens mechanism. This gave him absolute control over visual clarity and ensured that the show would look as good in syndication as it did on its original broadcast. The dedicated sitcom format made its official premiere on CBS on October 1st, 1955. It captured an overwhelming audience share right out of the gate, rocketing to become the #2 highest-rated television program in the United States. The show had struck a chord with audiences who recognized something of themselves in the Cramdens and the Nortons. The characters were not idealized. They were real, flawed, and deeply human. Audiences laughed at Ralph's schemes, cringed at his outbursts, and rooted for Alice's quiet resilience. But for all its early success, the show was about to face challenges that would test the patience of everyone involved. Challenges faced by the show. Behind the laughter and the legendary status of The Honeymooners lay a production environment that was nothing short of chaotic. The show that millions of viewers loved was born from a crucible of anxiety, improvisation, and a star whose unorthodox methods pushed his cast to their absolute limits. While audiences saw the comedic magic unfold on screen, the cast and crew experienced a very different reality, one that often teetered on the edge of disaster, with the entire production held together by sheer talent and quick reflexes. At the center of this chaos was Jackie Gleason himself. Gleason possessed a nearly photographic memory that allowed him to look at a script once or twice and memorize his lines with ease. Because this came so naturally to him, he developed a disdain for the tedious process of rehearsing scenes over and over. He stubbornly believed that too much rehearsal killed the spontaneity of comedy, that the best performances were born from instinct rather than preparation. While this philosophy may have worked for Gleason, it created a living nightmare for his co-stars, who relied on rehearsal to perfect their timing and understand the blocking of a scene. Gleason enforced a strict rule that he would never participate in weekday table reads or scene walkthroughs with the rest of the cast. Typically, he would show up just hours before the live studio audience arrived, leaving his castmates with no idea what he was planning to do once the cameras started rolling. For Audrey Meadows, Art Carney, and Joyce Randolph, this meant they had to memorize their lines perfectly alongside a stand-in actor who read Gleason's part. On show night, they were forced to adapt instantly to whatever unscripted pathways, pacing shifts, or missed cues Gleason threw at them. The situation was made even more intense by the fact that cue cards were strictly forbidden on the set. Unlike other stars of the era who relied on them, Gleason banned them entirely. If an actor forgot a line, they had to ad-lib in character or risk the entire scene collapsing in front of a live studio audience. When Gleason himself forgot his lines, however, he had a distinct physical tell that would alert his castmates to his distress. Whenever Gleason blanked on his dialogue during a live broadcast, he would vigorously pat or rub his stomach. This belly tap was a silent distress signal to Audrey Meadows, who had developed a brilliant survival system to save the show from disaster. The moment she saw the stomach pat, she knew she had to step in immediately. She would improvise a line, asking a leading question or making a comment that would subtly feed Gleason his forgotten cue. She effectively rewrote the scene on the fly, guiding Gleason back on track without the audience ever realizing that something had gone wrong. Art Carney was also attuned to Gleason's signals. If you watch the show closely, you can observe moments when Carney would suddenly start talking more rapidly or filling in gaps as Gleason patted his stomach. It was a survival mechanism that the entire cast had to master just to get through each episode. The pressure on Carney was immense, and the fact that The Honeymooners is remembered as a flawless masterpiece is a miracle of television history. It wasn't born from meticulous planning. It was born from sheer terror, fast reflexes, and a cast that managed to catch lightning in a bottle every single week without a safety net. The production was also plagued by physical and technical disasters that would have derailed any other show. In the episode The Babysitter, a live telephone prop completely failed to ring on cue. Rather than stopping the scene, Gleason walked over, picked up the silent receiver, and improvised on the spot, claiming the phone was ringing but had a muffled sound to salvage the scene before the audience. During the filming of The Sleepwalker, a heavy window sash jammed completely when Ralph was supposed to open it. Gleason used his sheer physical mass to wrench the prop open, splintering parts of the wooden set frame live on camera while continuing his dialogue without breaking character. The technical demands of the show's pioneering production also added to the chaos. Gleason had insisted on using the Dumont Electronicam system, which allowed for superior visual clarity, but it also introduced complications. The internal film mechanisms generated a loud mechanical whirring sound. To prevent this noise from bleeding into the studio microphones, the cameras had to be wrapped in massive, heavy acoustic fiberglass isolation cases known as blimps. These made the cameras incredibly bulky, heavy, and dangerous to maneuver quickly around the live stage. Behind the scenes, Gleason battled a severe alcohol dependency that further destabilized the production. According to a 1992 biography, Gleason had to be one of the most reviled stars ever, known for showing up to performances with just minutes to spare after having several drinks and only glancing at a script the day of a performance. His drinking led to immense tension with CBS executives and corporate sponsors. While Gleason's behavior created chaos on set, Art Carney was fighting a private battle of his own. Despite playing the incredibly cheerful and energetic Ed Norton, Carney struggled with profound clinical depression and intense stage fright. He would sometimes need to isolate himself before performances to summon the energy to walk out beneath the studio lights. Some stories claim he would sit in his dressing room crying quietly after performances while the rest of the studio celebrated another successful taping. The contrast between Norton's goofy charm and Carney's internal struggles was stark. The pressures of the production were immense, and they would eventually contribute to the show's end. The relentless anxiety of performing without a safety net, the physical dangers of the set, the personal battles of the cast, and the sheer exhaustion of keeping the magic alive week after week were taking an irreparable toll. But it would be a single scene, one that went far beyond the show's usual brand of comedy, that would ultimately seal its fate: the dark political blacklist. The story of the Honeymooners is inseparable from the story of Pert Kelton. She was the actress who first brought Alice Cramden to life, establishing the sharp, cynical, defiant tone that would define the household dynamic for years to come. Kelton originated the role during the early Dumont variety show years, and her chemistry with Jackie Gleason was undeniable. Her Alice was older, more weathered, and arguably more bitter than the version Audrey Meadows would later portray. She was the perfect foil for Gleason's Ralph, and she seemed destined to become a television legend. The audience loved her, and the show was gaining momentum. But history had other plans. The year was 1950, and the entertainment industry was in the grip of a paranoid frenzy. A right-wing publication called Red Channels was released, listing 151 writers, directors, and performers who were alleged to have ties to the Communist Party. The publication was part of a broader effort to purge Hollywood and the entertainment industry of anyone who was suspected of being a communist sympathizer. It was a witch hunt, and it destroyed countless careers. Kelton's husband, actor Ralph Bell, was listed in Red Channels as an alleged communist sympathizer. The accusation was devastating. In the climate of fear and paranoia that characterized the McCarthy era, guilt by association was enough to ruin a career. No evidence was required. A name on a list was all it took. Because her husband was blacklisted, Kelton was instantly targeted by corporate sponsors who threatened to pull their funding if she remained on television. CBS executives pressured the production to remove her immediately. The network was terrified of being associated with anyone who had even a whiff of communist ties, and they were willing to sacrifice Kelton to protect their bottom line. Jackie Gleason, who was known for his loyalty to his cast members, was unable to protect her. He had no control over the blacklist, and he was powerless to stop the forces that were determined to erase her. The fear of losing the show entirely made it impossible for Gleason to fight for his original Alice. Rather than publicly admitting they were caving in to the McCarthyist witch hunts, Gleason and the network issued a false press release stating that Pert Kelton was leaving the show due to a sudden onset of severe heart trouble. She was scrubbed from the show's credits and promotional materials, erased as if she had never existed. The cover-up was a lie, but it was a lie that protected the network from controversy while destroying Kelton's career. The public was told that Kelton had retired due to health issues, but anyone who knew the truth understood that she had been the victim of a political purge. The lie persisted for years, and Kelton's reputation was tarnished by the false narrative. Following her abrupt removal, Kelton fell into a deep financial crisis. She was effectively banned from major television networks for years, and her career did not recover until the political climate cooled over a decade later. The woman who had created the role of Alice Cramden was now a pariah, unable to find work in the industry she had helped to build. She would eventually return to acting in smaller roles, including a memorable part in the film adaptation of The Music Man, but she never regained the prominence she had enjoyed before the blacklist. The heartbreak of being erased from her own creation haunted her for the rest of her life. She had given birth to a character who would become an icon, but she would not be remembered as the one who created her. The dark political blacklist that claimed Pert Kelton was a stain on American history. It destroyed lives and careers, and it cast a shadow over the entertainment industry for years. The legacy of the Honeymooners is inseparable from this tragedy. The show that had been created to reflect the struggles of working-class Americans had itself fallen victim to the politics of fear. When Audrey Meadows took over the role of Alice, she brought her own interpretation to the character, and she became a beloved part of television history. But the original Alice, the one who had first defined the role, had been erased. The blacklist had claimed its first victim, but it would not be the last controversy to plague the Honeymooners. As the show continued its run, tensions between the cast members began to simmer beneath the surface. Jealousy, resentment, and the pressures of fame created a toxic environment that would eventually boil over. What happened behind the scenes was just as dramatic as anything that aired on television, and the feuds that erupted would leave lasting scars on the cast. Modern controversy, feuds, and groundbreaking contracts. The financial divide that separated the cast of The Honeymooners was as stark as the difference between Ralph's get-rich-quick schemes and the reality of his bus driver's salary. While Jackie Gleason's name was synonymous with the show's success, the contractual arrangements he negotiated ensured that the wealth generated by the series flowed primarily to him and, in a remarkable twist, to one very shrewd actress whose foresight would make her a television pioneer. Jackie Gleason did not simply star in the show. His own entity, Jackie Gleason Enterprises, owned the physical show outright. This gave him absolute creative veto power, which frequently caused heated clashes with CBS network president William S. Paley regarding scheduling and script adjustments. Paley, a media titan who had transformed CBS into one of the dominant forces in American broadcasting, was not accustomed to being challenged. But Gleason, who had been lured away from the Dumont network by Paley's generous offer, wielded an unusual amount of control over his production. This was both a testament to his creative genius and a source of constant friction, as Gleason's vision frequently clashed with the network's demands for marketable, mainstream content. While the show generated millions in ad revenue, the supporting cast members were kept on rigid, flat-rate weekly salaries. They possessed no ownership stakes in the underlying production company, creating an underlying financial divide on set. The pay disparity was glaring. Gleason's CBS contract was worth an astonishing $11 million, though he was responsible for paying for the show's production. Despite this, he is rumored to have earned around $70,000 per episode. Art Carney, who played the beloved Ed Norton, earned a respectable $3,500 per week, while Joyce Randolph, the lowest-paid member of the cast, received just $500 per week for her role as Trixie. The salaries reflected the era's industry norms, where the star's name and creative control commanded the lion's share of the profits. The supporting cast members were essential to the show's success, but they were treated as replaceable cogs in a machine that was built around Gleason's star power. Audrey Meadows, however, played a different game. Her brother, Edward Meadows, was an incredibly sharp corporate lawyer. When she was finalizing her contract to play Alice, her brother noticed that television was moving toward filming shows permanently instead of doing live, one-off broadcasts. He demanded a unique clause stating she must receive a fixed royalty payment whenever an episode was re-aired or distributed. Network executives and Gleason's legal team thought old episodes would hold zero long-term value once their initial broadcast window closed. They signed off on the clause without a fight. This made Audrey Meadows the first actress in television history to legally secure continuous syndication residuals, quietly making her millions of dollars over the next several decades. It was a historic victory, a brilliant exploitation of a loophole that the industry had not yet learned to close. Meadows, a savvy actress who had famously tricked Gleason into casting her, had once again outmaneuvered the establishment. Her residual checks would continue to arrive long after she had stopped performing, a steady stream of income that far exceeded her original salary of $2,000 per week. She had turned a small role into a fortune, and she would go on to serve as the executor of Gleason's estate after his death. Her financial foresight was legendary, and her contract became a model for actors who sought to protect their interests in an industry that was increasingly built on syndication. This contract created a quiet, enduring rift among the supporting cast. Art Carney and Joyce Randolph had signed standard agreements without residual protections, meaning they watched the show run in continuous global syndication for decades without receiving any ongoing broadcast checks. The residual resentment was a simmering undercurrent, a silent acknowledgement of the vast wealth that was passing them by. Audrey Meadows had secured her financial future, but her co-stars were left to wonder what might have been if they too had possessed the foresight to demand a piece of the syndication pie. The inequality was a bitter pill to swallow, and it contributed to the tensions that simmered beneath the surface of the show's success. The show had been a triumph, a cultural phenomenon that had defined a generation. But behind the laughter and the success, the financial fissures had already begun to form, creating a legacy of resentment that would linger long after the final episode aired. The real reason The Honeymooners ended. The final curtain fell on The Honeymooners, not because of a network cancellation, but because its creator made a conscious decision to walk away. Jackie Gleason had signed a contract to produce the show for 2 full seasons, but after just 39 episodes, he pulled the plug. The decision shocked the industry and left fans wondering what had gone wrong. The truth was a combination of slipping ratings, creative exhaustion, and a desire to preserve the show's legacy before it could be tarnished. Gleason had always been fiercely protective of his creation, and he would rather end it on his own terms than watch it decline into mediocrity. During its single year as a standalone sitcom, The Honeymooners faced fierce competition. NBC scheduled The Perry Como Show directly against it on Saturday nights. Como's relaxed, high-budget variety format pulled massive numbers of viewers away, causing Gleason's show to plummet from the number 2 spot down to a disastrous 19th in the national ratings. The decline was steep and demoralizing for a show that had started with such promise. Gleason, who was accustomed to being at the top of the ratings, found the slide unacceptable. He had built his career on being the best, and he was not willing to settle for mediocrity. Rather than fight through the ratings slump, Gleason made a calculated decision. He officially walked away from the second year of the multi-million-dollar Buick contract, declaring that the writing team had completely run out of fresh ideas for the crammed-in apartment. In a later interview with Johnny Carson, Gleason admitted that he liked The Honeymooners too much to just throw it away. He said they were running out of ideas and didn't want to force storylines that didn't work. He also noted that the show had become too expensive to produce, and that the weekly grind of writing, rehearsing, and performing was taking a toll on everyone involved. The decision was not made lightly, but Gleason believed it was the right one for the show's legacy. The 39th and final episode of the dedicated sitcom format, A Man's Pride, aired on September 22, 1956. The standalone series was finished after just 1 season, creating the immortal collection known to television history as the Classic 39. Within a week, Gleason returned to his comfortable 60-minute variety hour format on CBS, bringing The Honeymooners along as occasional sketch segments rather than a weekly standalone show. The sketches continued to be popular, but they never again achieved the cultural dominance of the Classic 39 episodes. The show had been a triumph, a cultural phenomenon that had defined a generation, but Gleason had chosen to end it on his own terms. For nearly 3 decades, the public believed the Classic 39 episodes were the only surviving footage of The Honeymooners. However, in 1985, Jackie Gleason announced that he had spent decades hiding a massive, climate-controlled archive of old film reels in his private estate vault. These reels were the original high-quality Electronicam and Kinescope recordings of the long-form Honeymooners sketches that aired within his variety shows between 1951 and 1955. Gleason sold these newly unearthed, lost episodes to cable networks for an astonishing multi-million-dollar payout. The discovery was a revelation for fans who had believed the Classic 39 were the only existing recordings. When these recovered episodes were finally broadcast to modern audiences on networks like MeTV, viewers were stunned by how much darker, rougher, and meaner the characters were compared to the safer, sanitized Classic 39 sitcom episodes. The original sketches, featuring Pert Kelton as the first Alice Cramden, had a grittier edge that reflected Gleason's own difficult upbringing in the Brooklyn tenements. The contrast was stark, and it offered a fascinating glimpse into the evolution of the show's tone over the years. Audiences had grown up with the polished, family-friendly version of Ralph and Alice, but the early sketches revealed a much more cynical and abrasive dynamic. The post-show fates of the cast members were remarkably different. Art Carney successfully broke away from being typecast as the goofy Ed Norton, transitioning into deep dramatic acting and winning the 1974 Academy Award for Best Actor for his lead role in Harry and Tonto. Audrey Meadows, thanks to her steady stream of syndication residual checks, became independently wealthy and pivoted away from regular acting roles to become a highly successful bank executive. Joyce Randolph, however, found her career completely stalled, with casting directors refusing to see her as anyone other than Trixie Norton. She largely retired from mainstream television acting and shifted her focus to theater and commercial ads. She did not receive residuals for her work on The Honeymooners, which forced her to continue working in various capacities long after the show ended. Jackie Gleason eventually sold the outright syndication rights to the Classic 39 to CBS for a flat fee of $1.5 million. While it was a massive lump sum at the time, it proved to be a colossal financial miscalculation, as CBS went on to generate hundreds of millions of dollars from global syndication loops over the next 50 years. Gleason had always been a savvy businessman, but in this instance, he had underestimated the lasting power of his own creation. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click on the next video on your screen, like this video, and subscribe to our channel for more updates.